And now, please welcome President and CEO of MGM Resorts International, William Hornbuckle, in discussion with Skift Senior Hospitality Editor, Sean O'Neill.
Bill, thanks for doing this.
Pleasure. How are you?
Welcome to the chair.
Yeah, it's like, wow.
So I'd like to start talking first about Vegas, because MGM Resorts gets about 70% of your earnings from bricks and mortar operations from Vegas, more or less. And it's no longer just a gaming town. And so I'm curious, what is it that you're excited about Vegas now?
Well, what's interesting about it, we do about 45 million visitors a year. I think most of you would know that. But the evolution of what's happened there, I got there in 1977, and it was purely a gambling town. We opened the Mirage in '89. It changed the dynamic, as most of you all know. And then what Vegas has been really good about is taking what is going on in general travel in the community and blowing it up at scale. And so if you think about it, it became a resort town, so much so now that, and I'll give you an example, Bellagio, which is one of the world's largest, best casinos, arguably, give or take. But the top line revenue, 70% is non-gaming, 30% is gaming, put it in perspective. And that carries across all of our properties in the context of our top lines. And so as it's evolved through restaurants, through retail, through convention, we now 7 million odd visitors a year come to conventions in Las Vegas, and we have the opportunity to principally house a great deal of them. It's been an exciting space. We continue, though, and I'll give another example, nightclubs. Nightclubs have been around forever. We bring nightclubs to Las Vegas. We suddenly become the nightclub capital of the world because we blow it up on scale. And now most recently, and I think many of you, I don't know if you were here yesterday, and obviously heard from Steve Hill, sports has become a massive opportunity and draw into the Las Vegas community. It is the thing that we've been focused on over the last several years. We built T-Mobile. You just saw it flash up behind us. Under the context, build it and they will come, and they came. So Bill Foley came, and literally the first year we were in the Stanley Cup final, which was like unreal and surreal for the community. We brought a WNBA team there. We got connected to basketball. We now host the midseason tournament, et cetera. Obviously, we then moved to Allegiant. I think you heard that story yesterday. That's been an amazing thing. It was programmed to do about 25 events a year. I think last year it did 43.
Wow.
It sold out every ticket it had for the next 30 years in seat licenses. And the interesting thing about that venue is about 60-odd% of the folks aren't from Las Vegas. So when you go to a Raiders game, depending on who the travel team is, you could be sitting there and it's all red because it's Kansas City. Oh. So you look at Mark Davis, the owner of the team, he's going, rah, rah, rah. Well, as tourism folks, we love it. And so it's been, it continues to transform itself. Arguably, the question is what's next, because it always is for Las Vegas, and we can spend some time talking about that.
Cool. Yeah. Well, what is it that excites you about sort of some of the change now? So you've got the Sphere. You have the mix of some of the other content. What do you feel like about the progression coming ahead?
I think the things that are core and that matter go back to the convention business. It's it had, like everything through the pandemic, a tough rebound, but it has, up to and including tech, which is a big sector we focus on, and so. We're thankful for that. We enjoy that business. It means a lot to the community and to the town. Leisure travel continues. Las Vegas is still aspirational in many respects. The kinds of entertainment that we can now bring, you've all heard this, but it was true. 25 years ago, entertainers went to Vegas to die. Now, not so much. I mean, you see the kinds of things we host there, and there's not anything we miss. If there's a tour out, we get it. If there's somebody who wanted to do a residency, Las Vegas gets it. Ultimately, MGM has its fair share of that and then some. And so we're just excited by that movement. As we get more into the experiential space, a place that Las Vegas in its roots is all about, it's fascinating. There's a thing called Area 15 in Las Vegas. If you've been there, it's behind I-15. It's about a 40-acre plot. It did 3 million visitors last year. Its principal asset was Meow Wolf and a bunch of other things. But the idea that people come and they want to have experiences, particularly as the demo skews further and further younger. We've seen that in Las Vegas. It skewed really young post-pandemic. It's now moved back up a little more to norm. But providing those experiences, figuring out what's next, is kind of the trick to continuing to motivate and drive. And so far, we've done okay for the last 4 decades, but it's always about where are we going, what are we doing, will it continue to grow?
Cool. So yesterday, my colleague Seth Borko talked about a report that Skift Research did in partnership with McKinsey and Company about how experiential can fit better inside travel. And when I think of like experts at experiential, I think of MGM Resorts, but I also think of Disney and the cruise lines. With Disney and the cruise lines, they control the experiential part of the customer 100%. They even go to the extent of putting an electronic bracelet to track the people as they're going around. You have more of a curated approach, I would say. You're willing to refer the guests out to restaurants. When you open up MGM Resort in Dubai, you may have people going out into the desert and having experiences. So how do you think in terms of like how tight of a leash you want to have in controlling customers?
We want to know everything we can about them so we can personalize experiences. That's our version of control. To the extent you're going to control someone's experience, no. We have JVs where we own 50% of things. Obviously, we own all of Las Vegas. We have different partnerships and different economic models throughout our company. If a customer wants to go somewhere, we say, how can we accommodate that? Full stop. We don't put that into consideration. If we're marketing them, we'll market them to Las Vegas or Atlantic City, low tax, we own it outright, et cetera, on the front end. But once they're there inside that experience, if they tell their host they want to go to SW Steakhouse, which is at Wynn, guess what? We have a fancy car taking them there. Okay. And so we don't moderate it in that context. What's critical about it, and like literally about half of our guests now travel to Las Vegas for an event, whether it's as simple as a football game, a concert, or something like we just hosted Canelo this weekend. It's always about what's the excuse I can give myself to go to a place like this, and they do. And so our job is to create those excuses, and we do fairly well at that, and then bring them on and take care of them. But we don't control that in that context. Hopefully, we know a lot about you to offer you that opportunity to come because we know that you like, in that case, professional fights. But it's more about getting you to come to begin with, and then letting you enjoy your own experience.
I think it sets an interesting example for the rest of the industry. Let's shift gears slightly, and you have a role as chair of the U.S. Travel and Tourism Advisory Board. What do you think? How prepared do you think the U.S. is to be able to host like 10 sporting mega events over the next decade?
There's work to do. Okay. Look, the pandemic, we all lost workforce. We all went backwards during the pandemic. As we all came out of it, including the U.S. government, by the way, getting Homeland Security back, getting the officers back in airports, getting immigration to perform at the level that it used to, we're behind. Now we're catching up. FAA, just air traffic controllers, we are literally behind, particularly as it relates to international travel. If you think about Mexico, India, first-time visitors asking for a visa, it can be 800 or 900 days. It's just too long. Having said that, working through TTAB and U.S. Travel, putting a great deal of coordination and some focus on those efforts, they've come a long way in the last couple of years. And so it's getting better, but we are going to host, to your comment, Sean, 8 of the next 10 biggest events in the world are going to be hosted in America between the Olympics, Paralympics, Copa, World Cup, et cetera. And we got to be ready for it. And we're not as ready as I think we need to be yet, but there is some time, and so we're hopeful.
Okay. Let's talk about MGM Resorts strategy. So I spoke yesterday with Tony Capuano of Marriott, and he was very thrilled with the partnership in the past year with MGM Resorts. How's it working for you?
Love it. I'm sure some of you may have heard Tony's comments yesterday. It was kind of interesting. I started in MGM in 1998, and we were going to build a Marriott hotel there. And I was the guy who came in. I came in as the executive VP. I became the president the same year, and I said, why are we doing that? And literally killed it. And so here we are 20-some years later, and we have this massive deal with them. To have 180 million Bonvoy members is 180 million people in
210 million now.
Well, okay.
He gave the latest figure.
Well, that's because he's counting my numbers now. But that's fine. God bless him. But if it's 210, I mean, there's just nothing out there at that scale. And so the idea of putting it together in a unique way, it's not the quote-unquote the standard that is in the industry, in a unique way. We run 92, 93% year-round. So it wasn't about occupancy. It was about who's in the rooms, why are they there, and what are they going to do. About a third of those customers are pure redemption. And so if you think about that, they're going to Las Vegas for 2 or 3 days. Their room is paid for. Well, what else are they going to do, right? And so the disposable income has been great. The average rates have been great. We're doing a little over 2,000 rooms a day with them. It started when we bought the Cosmopolitan. We saw the value of it for that single property, and now we've stretched it across our company. And we provide some unique experience, particularly for Bonvoy members, that he's excited by, and they should be, and vice versa. And so we've opened now up, obviously, our database in reverse to go to one of a gazillion locations, and so it's been really good. The other piece that was interesting to us is we had GSOs, we thought we knew the meetings business, and we do it at a very large scale. But what they have been great at, they have 1,300 of them, by the way, it's a little more than we do. What they have been great at is mid-tier group business, 200, 300, 400 rooms that we would never know or focus on, and putting them in some of our properties like the MGM and Park MGM, et cetera. That's been a nice piece of business that we didn't quite anticipate, so it's been great.
Cool. International expansion is very key for you at MGM Resorts, and so let's talk a little bit about that. I'd like to start with UAE. I think everyone's waiting to see whether or not they approve gaming. Has MGM Resorts submitted its proposal for a license to the gaming authority in UAE?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
We've done it in Abu Dhabi. We actually have a long history with the region. They were partnered, a group called Dubai World Infinity Group was partnered with us back with City Center, back in the days that we created City Center. Up until a couple of years ago, they owned 50% of it. So we knew the region, we knew a lot of the players. We ended up in Dubai with a non-gaming hotel project, a large one, a project that's going to be over $2 billion, that has an MGM, a Bellagio, and an Aria. It has several podiums in it, which, if in fact Dubai accommodates or wants gaming, could accommodate that. The way it will work is the federal government, the Abu Dhabi government, will approve it. We've applied for a license there as well, and hopefully win something there. And then each ruler has their say. It's like a state, where each state says yes or no. It's the same thing there. Dubai has not opined on it yet. Time will tell. I hope and believe sometime this year we'll understand more about Abu Dhabi and the federal mandate and the federal oversight, and we'll go from there.
If Wynn announces first that they've gotten it, is there some sort of sense of a timeline that means probably all the others will get approved relatively quickly? Or?
Look, obviously there's a cultural barrier that they'll quickly get through. It's now happened. There's going to be something happening in Abu Dhabi. It'll take some time to build, and Wynn is already out of the ground, as you probably know. So yeah, the first in, once you get there and it's socially accepted, not for Emiratis, by the way, that's off limits for Emiratis, but for 80, 90% of the population there are non-Emiratis. And it's a huge travel destination. The Dubai airport now is one of the largest airports, and I think will be the largest airport in the world very soon.
Interesting.
And so, India is a massive market. The rest of the Middle Eastern countries can be a massive market. China was coming to Dubai and will continue to come to Dubai. So we're excited by what it presents, and we hope to be there.
Cool. We've heard, so Japan, you're in a joint venture, a 40% share. They're building an integrated resort in Osaka Bay. Is it true in the next few weeks that the city is going to hand over the land you're going to start building? Or?
It's already happened.
Okay, great.
So we are there. There's an image of it that just went up on the screen. That's a $10 billion project. I hope it's not more than that, or it's been nice knowing you all. They tend to creep. But it's a $10 billion project. There were going to be 3 licenses in Japan. When it was all said and done, we won the only license in Osaka. This is a place called Yumeshima. It's a large man-made island that was built to house the '72 Olympics, and they lost the bid. It's been fallow basically ever since. Directly behind the main tower is where the World Expo is going next year. It's under construction as we speak, so that's where it is. It's been a 12-year journey to get it to this point, so it's been a bit of a challenge. but we've actually are in the ground. We will build, and it'll take till 2030 before we open this. But we'll be the only licensee in a population of 100 million people. In Kansai alone, in this immediate region, Kyoto, it's spectacular here. There's 30 million people within a 90-minute drive.
Nice.
And so I think it'll do okay.
So you also have a project in Thailand you're excited about, New York, you have prospects. One thing that I don't understand, and I'm new to sort of trying to understand the sector, is it seems like regulation is loosening up worldwide on gaming. And by 2035, there'll be gaming on so many street corners and on every single smartphone. So do you feel like that is going to cannibalize some of these large projects?
Never. That would be the same story 30 years ago if I sit in a room and someone said, well, tribal gaming is going to impact us, riverboats are going to impact us. At the end of the day, it acclimated more people to ultimately want to come. Somebody says, hey, the Fontainebleau's open, come to the party, raise the tide, the whole deal. We truly, truly believe in that. Look, there is a point, I think Atlantic City's at this point now, where there are 9 licensees. Could it accommodate a 10th? I don't think so, at least not economically feasible. So there are a point where markets get saturated, but in terms of what would impact our business, I look at the other side of the coin with digital. the average visitor comes to Las Vegas once every 1.32 years, give or take. If I can get you connected and talk to you 365 days a year with something that's compelling and meaningful, whether it's sports betting because you enjoy it or iGaming because it's allowed and you enjoy it, I want to do that. And so we have a lot of energy and focus on that sector as well as international. We're obviously we own Las Vegas in the context of scale. We're in Macau, we'll be in Japan, I'd like to go to Thailand, we're in UAE, we're hoping to be in UAE. We're going to have a project in UAE, whether it's casino, time to tell. And we're in digital in a large way, but you can't miss but a commercial called BetMGM. And so we continue to push out at scale in a lot of different directions, but we think will be meaningful by the time it all adds up.
Okay. So many other players in gaming, like when I think of the depth of the pandemic, the only thing that you could do was sort of gaming and get some takeout food. And margins were through the roof at a lot of properties. So there's like the flip argument is like, don't invest in the non-gaming stuff that's dilutive. At MGM Resorts, you were mentioning at the top that 70% at the top line is for non-gaming revenue. So what is MGM Resorts doing? How do you navigate that?
Go back to the essence of the question, short-lived strategy. If you don't create an experience that's meaningful and valuable for people, particularly more now than ever, it's interesting. Convention Center Steve's group does surveys every year about why do you come to Las Vegas? You go back 25 years ago, 80% of the people said, I come to gamble. Why else would I go to Vegas? Ask them today, it's less than 10. Now they do, 75% of them still gamble, but they come for conference, they come for reasons that are experiential. To let that slide or not invest in that, every year we put about $800 million into our properties just to keep it good.
And recently, the Bellagio, you put $1 billion into the three properties, right? Yeah.
And it's not considered growth capital, it's considered keeping it where it wants and needs to be. Bellagio is a 25-year-old building. You walk in it, we've just about gone through the whole thing. It looks magnificent, and we need it and want it. You're never going to replicate Las Vegas, and you're never going to replicate that location. So not to keep those assets in the best shape possible, and forward-thinking about what you put, the amenity. Otherwise, people will not come. And so always invest.
Cool.
Continue to invest.
We have some audience questions. So how worried are you about the rise in sports betting addiction?
Look, our industry is very focused on it. We have something we brought in called GameSense. We monitor often people's play, their behavior, both online and in brick and mortar. It is not our opportunity or our desire to want to take everyone's last time, full stop, period. Less than 0.5% of the population has a true gaming addiction problem, but that's a big number in terms of people, and you focus on it. And so we're constantly focused on it. Go to a place like Japan, there are huge regulatory requirements around it. There's huge focus on that. There's huge educational programs that have to happen for customers and with customers to enable us to do the kinds of things that we do.
Cool. How important is it to build tomorrow's talent pipeline? Does your business model count on more staff, or are you looking at AI and automation to help?
For today, it's about staff. Our industry continued. I was just at NYU last night. I was just talking to the dean of UNLV School. And I'll give you UNLV School as the example. It used to have 3,000 students. Today it has 1,400. I think Cornell, great hotel school, had 800. Now it's down to 200, and they tucked it into the business school. Our industry needs a face that says there's real opportunities, there's real careers, there's real things to do here, and a real lifestyle that you and your family can enjoy. So we're pushing heavy on that. AI, I was hearing Ariane's comments that it will have a place eventually in our space. I don't know that we're going to create it. I'm going to be a fast follower, not a quick learner or a bad learner.
Right.
Having said that, it does have, particularly given our volumes on the front end, digitization of check-in, the digital concierge, and then getting smart about it through something like AI, how to take care of that frontline pressure and make it frictionless or less friction. Is really the trick and the thing we're focused on.
Well, related to that audience question, do Gen Z guests prefer more human touch, like checking in and planning through a concierge, or less, like digital?
About 35% of our people now are using digital check-in. Because they look at, many of you have been in Las Vegas, no matter what you do, when you have 4,000 rooms, there's a line. And so it can be painful at times on a Friday night. And so 35% of them use that device. A good portion of the people then who use the device, think about what happens. I now have your phone number. So for us, it's an opportunity to market if we don't abuse it. And for them, it's an opportunity to get access to services. And so the younger generation tends to use it more. Convention crowd tends to use it more. We just put in what we call frictionless front desk at New York. In essence, we took the front desk out. There are now, where there was 30 wickets, there's 3. 4. There's kiosks, there's check-in, there's people who are standing in front of the desk to try to help you. A little older demographic, maybe we didn't quite pick the right hotel, but it was scaled, it was only 2,000 rooms for us, which is actually small. It was scaled right, and so 60% of the people now there are checking in digitally. Right. And then they have the whole opportunity to have that experience digitally.
I remember you were one of the early ones. Aria had like a real experimentation with digital check-in, and I've stood in line for a half an hour at the Bellagio before, so I welcome that. We have, one of my colleagues is based in Dubai, Josh Corder. He's watching a lot of the events there, and one thing we were wondering is, what are the plans for the Dubai Sphere at the MGM Resort in that complex on the island?
Yeah. So we have, if you saw it, I don't know if we have a visual, but there's 3 properties. It sits on a large podium, and then in the middle of it is a sphere. It's not as big as the Sphere in Las Vegas by any stretch, but equally compelling. It's 300 seats. We're going to have, it's this mini showroom. It's going to have some of the visual things that you would obviously do inside a Sphere. It'll have a show line that walks through the history of Dubai, because it's fascinating. Dubai, the first time I went there, I said, well, this is Las Vegas on steroids at the time, because it just, in 1985, it was desert. It was nothing there. And literally 40 years later, not even 35 years later, it's this megatropolis with 3 million people. So we're going to tell that story there so the people can come in. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be fun.
What will the look and feel of the MGM Resort Dubai be?
It almost looks like a boat. It does. And it has these large grinds that go out into the water. We have 3 beaches, massive beach club villas. There's a Scorpios is going to be there. If anyone's been to Greece, understands that nightclub slash beach club slash day club. Exciting. It's going to have some really exciting things, I think. I'm excited by it.
We have an audience question. What are some of the key sustainability priorities in the short term that you're handling?
For us, there's 2 issues. Water in Las Vegas is a major concern. It's throughout the Southwest, anything tied to the Colorado River. We have less than 2% of the water on the river actually comes in, but 90% of the water we need comes from that. So we have done, everyone looks at the Bellagio fountains and said, you guys talk about water conservation, what are you talking about? That's all gray water. We have a well. A lot of it comes out of the building and is reused. Las Vegas is very good about water that, if it goes down a drain, we capture almost 95% of it back in the lake. The entire community has done a really good job with this. If it goes on a lawn, that's a different story. And so literally my community, my neighborhood, everyone's neighborhood, we're ripping out lawns, and we're going to reduce water consumption by 35%, and we are the only state that is going to actually get there as of today. Now, others are starting to pick up on it. The other one is, if you think about solar, 90% of our daytime power is now through solar. We built a plan about 4 years ago. We are now just issued another opportunity for another person to build for us another 100 megawatt plant about 25 miles north of Las Vegas, and the difference in this one will be, it'll be another same size facility, but it'll take us with batteries. And so we're going to be able to go well into the evening with our own solar power. And so all of that carbon, et cetera. So we believe by 2030 we can be 100% carbon neutral in the power context.
That's awesome. It's a very impressive achievement. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Bill. Thank you
for having
so
me.
much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Appreciate it.